Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session on advanced email authentication troubleshooting. Today, we'll be focusing on solving real SPF, DKIM, and DMARC issues. If you're a technical team member who understands the basics but sometimes gets stuck in the details, this deep dive is just for you. We'll move beyond theory and explore practical diagnostics, command line troubleshooting, and real-world scenarios that can cause authentication failures in production. So, let's get started and enhance our skills to ensure email security and deliverability. Today's focus is on moving from just knowing about these protocols to actually doing something about them. We're going to go beyond the basics and dive deep into the technical details of SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. The goal is to equip you, as technical teams, with advanced troubleshooting skills and practical diagnostic tools. Let's start with SPF, or Sender Policy Framework. I'll explain the detailed mechanisms first. A record, for example, authorizes hosts with an IP address matching the domain's A record. The MX mechanism allows hosts listed in the domain's MX records to send mail. The include mechanism is important because it delegates SPF checking to another domain's SPF record, which is especially useful for third-party senders. Then we have IP4 and IP6, which explicitly authorize IP4 and IP6 addresses or ranges. The exists mechanism performs a DNS, a record lookup to determine if the sender is authorized, often used for complex scenarios. And lastly, redirect lets you specify another domain whose SPF record should be used, but it can't be combined with other mechanisms. Now, moving on to qualifiers. The plus sign, or pass, explicitly authorizes the sender and is the default if no qualifier is present. The minus sign, or fail, marks the sender as unauthorized, and the email will likely be rejected. The tilde, or soft fail, suggests the sender is probably not authorized but the message might still be accepted, just marked suspicious. The question mark, or neutral, indicates the SPF result is inconclusive, neither authorized nor unauthorized. Let's look at how SPF records are written and evaluated. They always start with V equals SPF1. The mechanisms are evaluated from left to right, and the first match determines the result. If none match, the default is neutral, indicated by all. It's crucial always to end your SPF record with a catch-all mechanism like all or tilde all for security reasons. Now, troubleshooting advanced scenarios. One common issue is exceeding the 10 DNS lookup limit because each MX, PTR exists and include counts as one lookup. Going over this limit results in a perm error. Also, having multiple SPF records for a domain causes a perm error. It's best to consolidate all authorized senders into one record. The PTR mechanism is deprecated and should be avoided because it's error-prone. And for diagnostics, you can run commands like dig.txt-example.com to retrieve your SPF record. Moving on to DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. The DKIM record contains several tags. The V equals Dkim1 tag indicates the version, which is required. The K equals RSA specifies the key type, usually RSA. The H equals SHA-256 shows the hash algorithm used for the signature. The P equals contains your public key data, the core of DKIM. If P equals is empty, it signals the key has been revoked. The S equals tag indicates the service type, like email, and is optional. T equals can specify test or production mode, while N equals is for notes. G equals limits the signing to specific selectors or domains. When analyzing DKIM signatures, key tags like V, a C, D, S, H, BH, and B are essential. The V equals 1 indicates the version. The A equals RSA SHA-256 is the signing algorithm. The C equals relaxed/simple indicates how canonicalization is handled. Relaxed is more flexible, while simple is strict. The D equals domain is the signing domain, and S equals is the selector. The H equals lists the signed headers, which are critical for integrity. The BH equals contains the body hash, and B equals is the cryptographic signature. Optional tags like I, X, Z can provide additional info for troubleshooting. For best practices with key rotation, generate new key pairs regularly. say annually or biennially. Publish the new public key with a new selector in DNS. Gradually transition your sending systems to the new key and keep the old key active for a while to ensure delivery of older signed emails. Once those are gone, revoke the old key by clearing the P = tag. Let's briefly touch on canonicalization methods. The simple method is very strict, not tolerating any changes. The relaxed method is more flexible, ignoring white space, case differences, and trailing spaces. It's generally recommended because it's easier to implement correctly. Finally, DMARC, or domain-based message authentication, reporting and conformance. The record starts with V = Dmarc 1. The P = tag determines what happens to emails that fail, none, quarantine, or reject. The SB = tag overrides the main policy for subdomains. PCT = lets you gradually roll out policies by specifying a percentage of messages to be affected. RUA and RUF specify email addresses for aggregate and forensic reports, respectively. The alignment modes, strict or relaxed, for DKIM and SBF, control how closely the domains need to match. The FO = tag sets when failure reports are generated, either on any failure or only on all failures. The RI = tag controls reporting intervals, typically set to 24 hours but adjustable. In practice, PCT is useful for gradual enforcement, like starting with 10% of emails rejected, then increasing as you gain confidence. The SB tag helps you manage subdomains separately from the main domain's policy. And understanding report types and formats, aggregate versus forensic, helps you fine-tune your monitoring and response. That covers the key points. Mastering these details will give you the tools to troubleshoot and implement these protocols effectively, ensuring your email security is both robust and scalable. Let's dive into the core of SBF, which stands for Sender Policy Framework, and see how it helps us solve common email sender issues. Essentially, SBF is an authentication method that helps prevent sender address forgery. It lets domain owners specify which mail servers are authorized to send emails on their behalf, which is a big step in reducing spam and phishing attacks. Now, understanding SBF mechanisms and qualifiers is key. Mechanisms are the building blocks that define how SBF evaluates a sender. For example, the mechanism matches if the sender's IP address resolves to an A record for the domain. The MX mechanism checks if the IP matches any of the domain's MX records. The include mechanism delegates evaluation to another domain's SBF record, which is useful for third-party services. Then there are the IP-based mechanisms, IP4 and IP6, which match specific IP4 and IP6 ranges, respectively. The exists mechanism performs a DNS query on a domain, and if a record exists, it matches. The redirect mechanism replaces the current SBF record with another domain's, but it must be last. And finally, the all mechanism serves as a default, always matching to define your fallback policy. Qualifiers tell us what to do when a mechanism matches. A plus or no symbol means the email is authorized. A indicates a hard fail, meaning the email should be rejected. The soft fail suggests the email is suspicious but may still be accepted. And is neutral, meaning neither explicitly authorized nor unauthorized. Remember, mechanisms are evaluated from left to right, and the first match determines the outcome. When you write an SBF record, it starts with V = SPF1, then lists mechanisms and qualifiers, ending with the all mechanism. Evaluation is from left to right, and as soon as a match is found, that's the result. If no match occurs, the default is neutral, meaning no definitive decision. Let's talk about some common failure scenarios and how to troubleshoot them. First, the 10 lookup limit breach. SBF records are limited to 10 DNS lookups to prevent abuse. If you exceed this, you'll get a perm error. Symptoms include random bounces with errors about too many DNS lookups. The solution involves flattening your SBF record, replacing include mechanisms with actual IP addresses or CIDR blocks, or consolidating entries. This helps keep your SBF within the lookup limit. Next, multiple SBF records. A domain should only have one TXT record starting with v equals SPF1. Having more than one causes errors and unpredictable behavior. The fix is to combine all your SPF information into a single record, including all necessary domains and IP ranges. Another issue is syntax errors in your SPF record. Even a small typo can cause a perm error. Always validate your SPF record using online tools or manual checks. Make sure all mechanisms are correctly formatted, with proper colons, slashes, and quotes. DNS resolution issues can cause temp errors. If a DNS lookup times out or fails, it affects your SPF validation. These are often transient, so monitoring and working with your DNS provider to ensure stability is essential. Now, shifting gears a bit, DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail, helps ensure message integrity. It allows senders to digitally sign emails, so recipients can verify that the email truly comes from the claimed domain and hasn't been tampered with. DKIM records are published as TXT records in DNS, containing your public key, which is used for verification. The DKIM key includes details like the version, key type, the public key itself, optional service type, and hash algorithm. When an email is signed, a DKIM signature header is added. This header provides info about the signing domain, selector, algorithms, and the actual signature. Analyzing this helps troubleshoot DKIM issues. Regular key rotation is a best practice. Changing your keys every 6 to 12 months enhances security. Generate new keys, publish them under a new selector, monitor Dmarc reports, and decommission old keys after ensuring everything works smoothly. Canonicalization is another important concept. It defines how your email headers and body are prepared before signing. The simple method is strict, making any change invalidates the signature. The relaxed method is more tolerant, ignoring minor changes like whitespace differences, which improves deliverability without sacrificing security. Finally, let's touch on Dmarc, which builds on SPF and DKIM to give your domain policy and reporting capabilities. It allows you to specify how to handle emails that fail SPF or DKIM alignment, whether to monitor, quarantine, or reject them. Dmarc records are published as TXT records at Dmarc, your domain, com, starting with v equals Dmarc1. Understanding the policy tags like P for the main policy, SB for subdomains, and PCT for gradual rollout is crucial. You can receive aggregate reports through RUA, which summarize your email traffic, and forensic reports via RUF, which contain details of individual failures, although these are less common due to privacy concerns. Alignment modes for Dmarc, whether strict or relaxed, determine how closely SPF and DKIM must match the visible from domain. Strict alignment requires an exact match, while relaxed allows subdomains. Proper configuration of these settings is vital for effective enforcement. Troubleshooting Dmarc failures involves checking the authentication results header in received emails, analyzing aggregate reports to identify sources of failure, and ensuring your SPF and DKIM records are correctly set up and passing validation independently. Implementing Dmarc gradually, starting with monitoring and moving toward rejection, helps you refine your policies without risking email delivery issues. That covers the key points. Remember, proper SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc configurations are essential pillars of email security, helping protect your domain and your recipients from spoofing and phishing attacks. Let's take a closer look at email authentication protocols, starting with SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc, which are essential for ensuring reliable email delivery and preventing spoofing. These protocols work together to verify that emails are genuinely from the claimed sender and haven't been tampered with during transit. First, with SPF, or Sender Policy Framework, it defines which mail servers are authorized to send emails on behalf of your domain. This helps receiving servers detect forged sender addresses, essentially, email spoofing. An SPF record is a DNS TXT record that starts with v equals SPF1 and includes mechanisms and qualifiers. Evaluation begins from left to right, and the first mechanism that matches the sending IP determines if the email passes or fails. Mechanisms like a MX, IP4, IP6 include exists, redirect, and all each have specific roles. For example, a checks if the IP resolves to an A record for your domain, while MX checks if the IP belongs to your mail exchange servers. IP4 and IP6 specify particular IP ranges. Include allows you to authorize third-party senders, but be mindful each include counts toward the DNS lookup limit of 10. Redirect points the SBF check to another domain's record, but only once, and all sets the default policy for anything not matched earlier. Qualifiers like plus, minus, tilde, and question mark before mechanisms tell the receiver what to do if a match occurs, whether to pass, fail, soft fail, or remain neutral. Now, advanced troubleshooting is important because issues like exceeding DNS lookup limits or multiple SBF records can cause email delivery problems. For example, more than 10 DNS lookups, often due to multiple includes, can trigger a perm error. To fix this, SBF flattening, consolidating includes into direct IP addresses, is a common solution. Tools exist to help analyze and simplify your SBF record. Similarly, if you find multiple SBF records, that can cause confusion and errors. The fix is to combine all authorized sources into a single, comprehensive SBF record. When acquiring new companies or integrating systems, remember to update their SBF records to include your infrastructure. Otherwise, emails from those systems might bounce. Propagation delays can also cause intermittent SBF failures. Different DNS servers may cache old records, so patience and proper TTL management are key. Moving on to DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail, this protocol helps verify that an email was sent by an authorized sender and hasn't been altered. It involves storing a public key in DNS as a TXT record, usually at a selector subdomain, like S1 domain key. The record contains the version, key type, and the public key itself. When you sign an email with DKIM, a signature header is added. This header includes various tags such as the signing domain, selector, headers included, body hash, and the digital signature. The receiving server uses the public key to verify the signature, ensuring the message's integrity. Canonicalization methods, like simple or relaxed, determine how headers and the body are prepared before signing. Relaxed is more forgiving and generally recommended because it handles minor modifications during transit gracefully. It's best practice to rotate DKIM keys periodically for security reasons, generate a new key pair, publish the new public key under a new selector, and update your signing systems accordingly. After a transition period, you can remove the old key from DNS. Finally, Dmarc builds on SBF and DKIM, guiding recipients on how to handle emails that fail authentication and providing reporting. It's published as a TXT record at Dmarc, your domain, com, with tags specifying the policy, whether to monitor, quarantine, or reject, and how strict the alignment should be between the domains in the from header and those used in SBF and DKIM. The main concepts here are alignment and reporting. Alignment means that the domain in the from header must match the domain used for SBF or DKIM, depending on whether strict or relaxed modes are set. Reports, both aggregate and forensic, help you understand how your email authentication is performing and identify potential issues. An example Dmarc record might specify a quarantine policy for the primary domain, reject for subdomains, and include email addresses for report collection. The PCT tag allows gradual enforcement, starting small and increasing as you gain confidence. Overall, these protocols, SBF, DKIM, and Dmarc, are central to protecting your brand, ensuring email deliverability, and reducing the risk of spoofing. Proper implementation and ongoing management are key to maintaining a secure and trusted email environment. Let's dive into DKIM signature failures and how we can solve them to boost our email security. First, one common issue we face is selector mismatch. When recipient mail servers report errors like DKIM signature verification failed or bad signature, it often means the DNS record for the selector in the email header can't be found or is incorrect. To diagnose this, start by examining the email header and locate the DKIM signature line. Here, you'll find the S equals tag, which tells us the selector used for signing. For example, it might say S equals selector 1. Next, we perform a DNS query, using tools like dig or enslookup, to check if a TXT record exists for that selector_domain key. The domain name. If the record is missing or doesn't match, then there's a mismatch or the record hasn't propagated yet. The core reason this fails is that DKIM relies on that selector in the header to find the correct public key in DNS. If they don't match, verification can't happen and the signature fails. The fix: make sure the selector value your system uses matches exactly what's published in DNS. Double-check the DNS record name, such as selector1, domain key, example, com, and ensure its content is correct. Also, give enough time for DNS changes to propagate. Now, let's talk about issues with the key format and content. Sometimes, the public key in DNS is malformed or incomplete, leading to errors like invalid DKIM key or syntax error. To troubleshoot, retrieve the public key TXT record directly from DNS and look at its format. It should resemble something like V equals Dkim1, K equals RSA, P equals MIB, AQAB. A few common problems here include incorrect quotation marks, sometimes added or removed by DNS systems, line breaks or whitespace within the key string, key truncation, or missing the P equals component altogether. The solution is to regenerate your DKIM key pair, public and private, and carefully update your DNS record. Be precise. Copy the public key exactly as generated, avoid extra spaces or line breaks, and validate the record immediately with DNS lookup tools. Let's also review the DKIM signature header itself. It contains vital info like V equals for version, A equals for algorithm, C equals for canonicalization, D equals for domain, S equals for selector, and B equals for the signature. Understanding these helps us diagnose issues quickly. The header also includes the BH equals hash of the body and the H equals list of headers included in the signature. The timestamps help prevent replay attacks. Speaking of canonicalization, it's about how the message is normalized before hashing. The simple method is strict. Any change breaks verification, whereas the relaxed method allows minor modifications, making it more resilient, especially during forwarding. Finally, let's touch on key rotation best practices. Regularly updating your DKIM keys is crucial for security. Start by generating a new key pair with a new selector. Publish the new public key in DNS and keep the old key active temporarily. Gradually, you can sign a small percentage of mail with the new key, monitoring Dmarc reports for issues. Once confident, transition all mail to the new key. After a grace period, revoke the old key by removing its DNS record or setting the P equals value to empty. And then, establish a regular rotation schedule, say annually or semi-annually, to keep your DKIM setup secure. This approach ensures we stay ahead of potential threats and maintain the integrity and trustworthiness of our email communications. Let's dive into email authentication, specifically SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc, which are essential for protecting your domain and improving email deliverability. First, we'll look at SPF, or Sender Policy Framework. SPF allows you to specify which mail servers are authorized to send emails on your behalf. This helps prevent others from spoofing your domain. An SPF record is a TXT record in your DNS, starting with V equals SPF1. It includes mechanisms like IP4, MX include, and others, which define the conditions under which an email is considered legitimate. The record is evaluated from left to right, stopping at the first match. Remember, mechanisms can have qualifiers like plus for pass, for fail, for soft fail, and for neutral, which tell the recipient how to handle the message based on the match. It's important to keep your SBF records simple and within 10 DNS lookups, because exceeding that limit causes errors like perm error. Also, avoid multiple SBF records for a single domain, as that's invalid. To troubleshoot, you can use commands like digtxt to check your SBF record and ensure it's correct. Next, let's look at DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. DKIM adds a digital signature to your outgoing emails, which the recipient server can verify to confirm the email wasn't altered and is from an authorized sender. Your public DKIM key is published as a TXT record in DNS, typically under a selector like S1, domain key, your domain, com. This record contains details like the version, key type, hash algorithm, and the actual public key. When you send an email, a DKIM signature appears in the email header, including details such as the signing domain, selector, hash, and the signature itself. Canonicalization methods like relaxed are recommended because they tolerate minor changes in transit, such as whitespace or case differences. Regular key rotation is a best practice to enhance security. This involves generating new keys, publishing them in DNS, updating your mail server, and monitoring the transition. Be cautious during this process. If old selectors or keys remain in DNS, verification can fail, leading to DKIM failures. Finally, Dmarc builds on SBF and DKIM by instructing recipient servers on how to handle messages that fail authentication. Your Dmarc record is a TXT record at Dmarc, your domain, com, specifying policies like none, quarantine, or reject. It also includes options for subdomains, reporting addresses, alignment modes, and percentage of messages to apply the policy to. Alignment modes determine how strict the match must be between the sender's domain and the domain in SBF or DKIM. Strict requires an exact match, while relaxed allows subdomain matches. Using the PCT tag allows you to gradually roll out stricter policies, starting conservatively and increasing gradually as you gain confidence. To check your Dmarc record, you can use the digtxt command. Overall, understanding and implementing SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc together provides a strong defense against email fraud and helps ensure your messages reach your audience securely and reliably. Let's dive into some real-world scenarios and take a deep look at how misconfigurations can impact your email security. First, consider a phishing attack that manages to pass SPF checks. This often happens because of a critical misconfiguration. For example, if your SBF record includes v=SBF1 plus all, it essentially allows anyone to send emails on your domain's behalf. That's a huge vulnerability. When you see plus all, it means any server on the internet can impersonate you, making it very easy for attackers to spoof your domain and conduct phishing campaigns. The core issue here is that this setup completely nullifies the purpose of SBF, which is to specify authorized senders. Instead, it opens the floodgates to spoofing. So the first step is to inspect your SBF record carefully. Remember, an SBF record is a DNS TXT record that defines which servers are allowed to send mail for your domain. If it's misconfigured, like with plus all, it's a serious problem. Now let's look deeper into SBF records themselves. They are evaluated from left to right, meaning the order matters. The first matching mechanism determines whether the email passes or fails. The mechanisms include a MX, PTR, IP4, IP6 exists, include, redirect, and all with all always placed at the end. Each mechanism has qualifiers like plus, minus, tilde, or question mark, which tell the system whether to allow, deny, soft fail, or treat neutral. For example, plus or allows the IP matching the domain's A record, while all means reject any server not explicitly authorized. So what's the solution? If your current SBF record is v=SBF1 plus all, you should change it immediately to something more secure, like v=SBF1 tilde all, or even better, v=SBF1 all, once you're confident all legitimate senders are accounted for. This helps prevent spoofing right away. In the short term, Implementing Dmarc with p=quarantine allows you to monitor and gather reports on any unauthorized emails. Long-term, you can move to p=reject, which provides the strongest protection. Now, shifting gears to Dkim. This is about adding a digital signature to your emails, which helps verify that the message wasn't tampered with and truly comes from your domain. The Dkim DNS record contains the public key, formatted as a TXT record, with details like the version, key type, hash algorithm, and the key itself. When an email is signed with Dkim, the receiving server can check the signature against your DNS record. The signature includes information such as the selector and domain, which help locate the correct public key. There are two canonicalization methods, simple and relaxed. Simple is strict, while relaxed is more tolerant of minor changes, like whitespace. For most cases, relaxed is recommended for better compatibility. It's also best practice to rotate your Dkim keys regularly, say every 6 to 12 months. When you do this, publish a new public key with a new selector and keep the old one active for a grace period. This minimizes risks if a key is compromised. Finally, let's talk about Dmarc, which builds on SPF and Dkim. It tells receiving servers what to do if an email fails authentication, whether to monitor, quarantine, or reject. The Dmarc record contains various tags, like P= for policy, RUA= for aggregate reports, and RUF= for forensic reports. It also specifies alignment modes for SPF and Dkim, ensuring they match the from domain. An example Dmarc record might specify a quarantine policy initially, which means suspicious emails go to spam. Over time, you can tighten this to reject, providing maximum protection. Reports sent to your designated email addresses offer insights into authentication results, helping you identify potential issues or malicious activity. In complex environments, like a hybrid Office 365 setup, you might encounter email delivery issues due to inconsistent routing or authentication failures. The key here is to ensure all outbound emails are routed through your authorized platforms, like Office 365. This guarantees they are properly signed with Dkim and included in your SPF record, ensuring Dmarc passes smoothly. Always verify your DNS records with commands like digtxt for your SPF, Dkim, and Dmarc entries. And analyze your email headers to trace the path of failed messages to diagnose any alignment issues. By understanding these configurations and best practices, you can significantly strengthen your email security posture and mitigate the risk of spoofing and phishing attacks. Let's dive into the core of finding the smoking gun when it comes to email issues. Effective email deliverability and security depend heavily on proper authentication, and when problems happen, examining email headers becomes our critical forensic tool. By analyzing headers, we can diagnose issues with SPF, Dkim, and Dmarc. These protocols are key signals within email headers that tell us whether an email is legitimately from the sender it claims to be from. Starting with the authentication results header, this shows us the results of SPF, Dkim, and Dmarc checks at the point of receipt. For example, you might see SPF = pass, Dkim = pass, and Dmarc = pass, which means everything aligned perfectly. But if one of these fails, the headers reveal where the breakdown occurred. For instance, a pattern like SPF passing, but Dkim and Dmarc failing, could point to a Dkim misconfiguration, such as an incorrect public key or selector mismatch. Alternatively, if SPF fails but Dkim passes, it could indicate issues like missing IP ranges in your SPF record or exceeding DNS lookup limits. And when both pass but Dmarc fails, it often points to an alignment problem, meaning the domain in the from header doesn't align with the validated domains from SPF or Dkim, especially under strict Dmarc policies. Now, to understand these better, we need to get into the protocols themselves. SPF is designed to specify which servers are authorized to send mail on your behalf. Its syntax involves mechanisms like MX, include, and IP addresses, each with qualifiers that tell the receiver whether to pass or fail the check. The order of evaluation matters. A mismatch or too many DNS lookups can cause problems, so troubleshooting often involves checking for excessive lookups, incorrect IPs, or syntax errors. Moving on to DKIM, this protocol ensures that the email hasn't been tampered with during transit. The public key is published as a DNS-TXT record, and the email contains a DKIM signature header with various tags. These tags include the signing domain, selector, algorithms, and the signature itself. Regular key rotation and proper canonicalization methods help keep DKIM secure and resilient. Canonicalization determines how headers and bodies are prepared for hashing, with relaxed settings offering more tolerance for minor changes. Finally, Dmarc builds on SBF and DKIM, providing instructions on how to handle unauthenticated emails and enabling reporting. The key tags in a Dmarc record include the policy for your domain, options for subdomains, and reporting URIs. For example, setting a policy to reject unauthenticated emails helps protect your brand. But during rollout, you might start with a more lenient policy with a lower percentage of enforcement. Dmarc also allows you to specify alignment modes for SBF and DKIM, strict or relaxed, which determine how closely the domains need to match. And the reporting features, whether aggregate or forensic, give you insights into how your domain is being used or abused. To wrap up, understanding these headers and protocols is essential for pinpointing authentication failures. Using tools like Dmarc analyzers or header analyzers helps automate this process. Connecting all these points, the goal is to ensure your emails are properly authenticated, trusted, and secure, so your messages reach their intended recipients without getting lost or flagged as suspicious. Let's now dive into some advanced diagnostic commands for email authentication, which are crucial for ensuring robust email deliverability and preventing spoofing. Achieving this requires meticulous configuration and continuous monitoring of SBF, DKIM, and Dmarc records. In this section, I'll share detailed technical insights into these protocols, along with powerful diagnostic commands and troubleshooting scenarios. Starting with SBF, or Sender Policy Framework, this is an essential method used to detect forged sender addresses, a common tactic in spam and phishing. It allows a domain owner to specify exactly which mail servers are authorized to send email on their behalf. The core of SBF is the TXT record in DNS, which begins with V equals SBF1, followed by mechanisms and qualifiers. When evaluated, the record is read from left to right, and the first matching mechanism determines the outcome. Mechanisms like a MX, IP4, IP6 include, exists, and redirect each serve specific purposes. For example, a match is if the sending host's IP has a record that resolves to your domain, while include delegates SBF validation to another domain, which is especially important for ESBs. Qualifiers such as plus for pass, for fail, for soft fail, and for neutral define how the results are interpreted and handled. It's important to remember that a domain should only have one SBF TXT record. Multiple records cause authentication failures. Also, keep an eye on the DNS lookup limit. Exceeding 10 lookups due to mechanisms like include, or MX can cause SBF to fail. Ensuring your IP addresses are accurate and avoiding excessive includes are key troubleshooting steps. A useful command to fetch and analyze your SBF record is dig txt your domain, com plus short grep SBF. You can then validate the record on online SBF validators for in-depth analysis. Moving on to DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail, which uses encryption-based authentication. It allows your outgoing emails to be signed with a private key, and recipients verify this signature using a public key published in DNS. The public key appears as a TXT record under a selector subdomain, like S1 domain key, your domain, com. This record contains tags such as V, K, H, P, S, and T, each specifying different aspects of the key and signing process. When analyzing a DKIM signature, look for the DKIM signature header. It contains details like the version, algorithm, canonicalization method, domain, selector, header fields, body hash, and the actual signature. Canonicalization methods, whether simple or relaxed, influence how minor changes in the email content affect verification. Regular key rotation, changing your DKIM keys periodically, is best practice for security. When doing so, publish a new selector and update your email system accordingly. To verify your DKIM public key, you can run a command like dig txts1, Dmarc, your domain, com plus short. Now let's talk about Dmarc, which builds on SPF and DKIM. It tells recipient servers what to do when email fails authentication and provides reporting back to you, the domain owner. The Dmarc record, a TXT record at Dmarc, your domain, com includes tags such as v, p, rua, ruf, Dkim, asp, and more. The p tag defines your policy, none, quarantine, or reject. The rua and ruf tags specify where aggregate and forensic reports are sent, giving you visibility into your email ecosystem. The Dkim and asp tags determine how strictly DKIM and SPF domains must align, with relaxed or strict modes. The PCT tag allows gradual rollout of policies, say, starting with 25% of emails, to prevent unexpected delivery issues. Subdomain policies can be explicitly set with the SB tag or inherited from the parent domain. To check your Dmarc record, a simple command is dig txt Dmarc, your domain, com plus short. You can also perform comprehensive DNS checks to verify SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc setup across multiple domains, ensuring everything is correctly configured. Finally, DNS propagation testing is essential. You can check how your records are resolving from different DNS servers like Google's 8888 or Cloudflare's 1111, helping you identify propagation delays or inconsistencies. For ongoing monitoring, automated scripts can detect issues such as multiple SPF records or missing DKIM and Dmarc records, alerting you before these problems impact your email deliverability. In summary, mastering these diagnostic commands and understanding their outputs is vital for maintaining a secure, trustworthy email infrastructure. They provide the technical foundation to troubleshoot, validate, and optimize your email authentication setup effectively. Let's dive into advanced email security, focusing on SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc. These three tools are essential for ensuring your emails actually reach their recipients and for fighting spoofing and phishing attacks. We'll explore each in detail, including how they work, practical examples, and troubleshooting tips. Starting with SPF, or Sender Policy Framework. SPF helps prevent unauthorized senders from using your domain by specifying which mail servers are allowed to send email on your behalf. This information is published as a TXT record in your DNS settings. Think of SPF as a whitelist for your email servers. When an email is received, the recipient's server checks this record to verify if the sender's IP address is authorized. The SPF record syntax begins with v equals SPF1, followed by mechanisms that specify criteria for matching, and ends with an all mechanism. Evaluation happens from left to right, stopping at the first match. For example, mechanisms like an MX match if the sending IP resolves to an A or MX record for your domain. The IP4 and IP6 mechanisms explicitly list allowed IP addresses or ranges. The include mechanism delegates SPF checking to another domain, which is useful for third-party services but has limits. Specifically, only 10 DNS lookups are allowed per SPF check. Qualifiers modify the result of each mechanism. A plus sign means pass, which is the default. A minus sign means fail. Your server will reject these senders. A tilde indicates a soft fail. Messages may still get through but are marked suspicious. And a question mark means neutral, neither allowing nor denying. Troubleshooting SPF issues often involves checking for multiple TXT records or exceeding DNS lookup limits. Tools like Dig help diagnose these problems by verifying your SPF record and counting DNS lookups. Moving on to DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. DKIM adds a cryptographic signature to your emails, linking them to your domain and ensuring their contents haven't been altered. These signatures are stored in DNS as TXT records under a selector subdomain, like S1, Dmarc, your domain, com. The record contains tags specifying the key type, the public key itself, the hashing algorithm, and other optional notes. In the email header, you'll see the DKIM signature field, which includes tags such as D equals for the signing domain, S equals for the selector, and BH equals for the hash of the email body. This allows the receiving server to verify that the message is authentic and has not been tampered with. Canonicalization methods, like simple or relaxed, determine how headers and body are prepared before hashing. Relaxed is generally recommended because it's more forgiving of minor changes. Regular key rotation is a best practice for maintaining security. You can generate new key pairs and publish them under a new selector, then gradually switch your signing to the new key. Once you're confident that everything is working smoothly, you retire the old key. Finally, DMARC, or Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting and Conformance. DMARC builds on SPF and DKIM by providing a policy for how to handle emails that fail authentication checks and a reporting mechanism so you can monitor your email streams. You publish a TXT record at Dmarc, your domain, com, specifying your policy, whether to monitor, quarantine, or reject failing messages. DMARC policies include tags like P equals for the main policy, SB equals for subdomains, and PCT equals to apply the policy gradually to a percentage of your emails. You can also specify whether DKIM and SPF need to align strictly or relaxed, using Dkim and ASP. This alignment ensures that the domain in the from header matches the domain used in SPF or DKIM checks. Monitoring is crucial. Regularly review aggregate reports or forensic reports to detect anomalies, such as unexpected changes in your DNS records or drops in email authentication success. Automation tools can help you keep track of SPF, DKIM, and DMARC health, alerting you to issues like multiple SPF records, failed lookups, or invalid DKIM keys. In summary, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC form a powerful trio for safeguarding your email domain. Proper implementation, ongoing monitoring, and regular updates are key to maintaining a secure and trustworthy email infrastructure. Let's now go through our troubleshooting checklist and quick fix protocol for email authentication issues. First, we start with SPF, or Sender Policy Framework. Make sure you verify that there's only a single SPF record for your domain, as multiple records can cause conflicts. Keep the number of DNS lookups under 10 to avoid timeouts, and double-check that the syntax is correct. No unnecessary plus all statements. Confirm that your SPF record includes all valid ESPs, and ensure that DNS propagation is consistent across different servers. Next, we look at DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. Verify that the DKIM selector exists in DNS, and that the associated key is complete and valid. The selector in DNS should match what's in your email headers, and check for any expired keys. Also, make sure your ESP is properly configured to sign emails with DKIM. Moving on to DMARC, or Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting and Conformance. Confirm there's only one DMARC record, and that it's properly aligned with your SPF or DKIM domains. Set the appropriate policy, whether quarantine or reject, and ensure reporting is configured to monitor your email flow. Don't forget to set a subdomain policy if needed. When troubleshooting, always check the email headers to identify where the failure occurred, focusing on the authentication results header. Verify your DNS records by using tools like Dig to confirm syntax and existence. To test propagation, query multiple name servers to see if records are consistent across the board. Once you've identified the root cause, address the underlying issue rather than just applying a quick fix. Monitor your changes carefully to verify that the issues are resolved without introducing new problems. Remember, critical resources like MX Toolbox, DNS Checker, MHA, SBF tools, and Dmarc are essential tools for this process. The key takeaway here is that most authentication failures are due to DNS misconfigurations, not your sending infrastructure. Always start by verifying DNS with dig, check for propagation consistency, and keep in mind that your from domain must align with either SBF or Dkim domain to pass authentication. Finally, approach fixes systematically, fixing root causes rather than just applying band-aid solutions.